Hi guys, welcome to the third and final video on Lesser Florican. The first slide here gives us one more point that can be asked in a multi-statement question about this bird. It talks about a tree species, the proliferation of which has led to major habitat loss for this bird. The name of the tree species is Prosopis juliflora. Now this tree species in the North Indian states in local language is also known as kikar, and one way of asking this tree species is like that elephant question we have already seen. Multiple statements could be there about Lesser Florican, and one of the statements could talk about this tree species. Also, in 2018, there was a dedicated question on this particular tree species. So, this is another way this information could be asked. This slide gives us another point. We have already seen this point, but because it is separately mentioned in this report, I've highlighted it. It says it is extremely difficult to assess the number of female lesser floricans, and this we have already seen why. The males are easier to assess because of their lacking behavior, and females are highly elusive. So whatever numbers you get around the population size of this species, whether it is 240 or 250 to 340, this is the estimate range. These are the males that they are talking about. The females, we don't know how many females of this species are there. Next, we talk about the two most important locations for sighting the Lesser Florican. We have Shokalya in Rajasthan and Velavadar in Gujarat. Now, the characteristics of these two sites are important, guys, can be asked. Now, the first thing we need to note is that both of these locations hold similar numbers of Lesser Florican. Now, the differences are in Velavadar, we have around two sites that are very important, at least two sites that are very important for locating these birds. And in Shokalya, we have around 22 sites. So number of sites in Shokalya for locating these birds is more. That means these birds are more dispersed in Shokalya compared to Velavadar. And Velavadar is a grassland area. So this explains why in just two sites we have so many birds, because grassland is their favorite location of these birds, and when we get grasslands there will be congregation. While compared to Velavadar, Shokalya is an agricultural area, and this is why the birds are highly dispersed. So the threats and the strategies in both of these locations will be different, and these points can be asked as a dedicated question in exam. The next few slides talk about the key recommendations regarding conservation of Lesser Florican. Now, this is largely important for mains. So, out of the list of recommendations, just pick the most important 4 or 5. And the Lesser Florican is a migratory species, so you can use these recommendations for a question that talks about any migratory species, or even a non-migratory species if those recommendations are relevant. So just pick any 4 or 5, and I'm not going to show all those slides, all those recommendations in this video. I'm going to share this PDF in the RDI official group. From that PDF, you can just get your points. Let us now come to the information on this bird given on IUCN website. So we have the scientific name and the popular name given. This assessment was done by BirdLife International, and the IUCN red list category is endangered. Okay, I think the Hindu the other day had mentioned that it is critically endangered. Some student had pointed it out in the mentorship group, but that information is wrong, guys. I checked it on the IUCN website, and it is endangered. Next, we have already seen that the common name is Lesser Florican, but more importantly, it is also known as lick or Kharmore, Kharmore. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Any native speaker, please let me know if I'm doing it wrongly. Okay, so instead of Lesser Florican, lick or Kharmore may be given, and you could get confused, so I've highlighted it here. The next point says that we have already seen that the males have this breeding plumage of black and white, but that is not the case with females. Females and the young, the immature, are sandy in color, a point that can be asked in a multi-statement question about this bird. Also, the females of Lesser Florican species is larger. It is slightly larger than the male. This is a very important differentiating point. Compared to Bengal Florican, another point that can be asked, compared to Bengal Florican, the Lesser Florican is smaller. That is, the Bengal Florican is larger and shorter necked with no head plumes. We saw in the case of male Lesser Floricans the head plumes. So Bengal Florican, it is larger, it is shorter necked, and it does not have any head plumes and does not have any white collar. Next, we have the change in conservation status. So, this bird was critically endangered, at least in the past. The years are not important, will not be asked, but you need to know that it was indeed critically endangered in the past, but after that, it has been endangered. Its status has improved. Next, we have the geographical range of this species. I'm not going through the points, I've highlighted them. I'll share the PDF, just go through them yourself. And overall, the countries, the geographical range actually is Indian subcontinent. Next, guys, the top part, whatever points are given, we have discussed these points. Most of them we have discussed directly, some might be new, so just go through these points yourself. We need to come to the listing of this species under various international agreements, and this is where a lot of confusion is there. So when we talk about the Lesser Florican, it is listed under CITES Appendix 2, yes, but it is not listed in the CMS. I'll show you the proof in the next slide. So Convention on Migratory Species does not list this bird, and it is listed under Schedule 1 of the Indian Wildlife Act of 1972. So here is the proof of listing or not listing of the Lesser Florican. On top we have the listing on CITES given. On the left we have the Lesser Florican, and on the right we have the Bengal Florican. Okay, just a comparison is given. So Lesser Florican is listed under CITES Appendix 2. Okay, this is the name, Lesser Florican. Next, this is the scientific name of Bengal Florican, and it is listed in Appendix 1 of CITES. These are not just for evidence, but this information can be asked in prelims. Now we come to the Convention on Migratory Species, the CMS, and you can see my search. I searched for Lesser Florican and it did not display any entries. There are no entries under CMS with the name Lesser Florican. I've checked even with the scientific name, it's not given. And compared to this, under CMS, I checked for Bengal Florican and we have an entry. So this entry was done in the year 2020 and this is in CMS Appendix 1. So this difference is important, can be asked, so don't get confused by whatever information the newspaper or other media are feeding you. I've checked and verified from the authoritative source. So CITES mentions Lesser Florican, the CMS doesn't. Finally, we come to the Hindu article which inspired these video series. The article read, longest migration route of Lesser Florican from Rajasthan tracked. Alright, so longest migration route means around 1000 kilometers of one bird. Many transmitters were fit on many birds. One of them traveled for around 1000 kilometers before the battery died. So this is the longest route that we have information on for this bird so far, and the tracking was done from Rajasthan, that is from Shokalya, and that battery died in Ahmednagar district of Maharashtra. So the starting and the end point also of this 1000 kilometers can be asked in exam. Right, so let's come to the point. It says it is a major discovery. You know why it is a major discovery, because it is an elusive bird. The longest in-country migration. Okay, UPSC can confuse you by saying that cross-country migration has been tracked. The next point says that it is tracked for the first time. That's why this is very significant. From Rajasthan to Maharashtra, Ahmednagar district, and from Shokalya landscape of Rajasthan, the journey began. Satellite transmitters were used, And Shokalya is a breeding ground, you know that. From breeding ground to the places of origin, to their home, this tracking was done. UPSC can try to confuse you by saying that from their home location to the breeding ground, or from the home location to the breeding ground and back. Okay, any kind of information can be given. Next is the error in the Hindu. It says the bird is listed as critically endangered on IUCN red list, and we have seen that it is not critically endangered, it is only endangered. Okay, please note. The population trend of this bird has been identified as decreasing. This is correct. The population is decreasing of this bird. Next, another thing that can be highlighted, that can be asked in exam, is that the satellite transmitters were made in US. Now, this is important because of all this cacophony around, made in India and Desi products and all these things. So the satellite transmitters were US made. They were not made in India, and they use solar powered batteries. So these batteries died in Ahmednagar district of Maharashtra. Next, the first attempt at such tracking was made in the year 2014. Another point that can be asked, that this was the first attempt, or the first attempt was made way back in 1990s or something, some other year could be given. So you don't exactly need to remember 2014, but just remember that 2021 was not the first attempt. Okay, just this much. Next is this last section. It says this was the longest covered distance by a tagged Lesser Florican to the knowledge of the conservation scientists and environmentalists before the battery died. So nothing really important here. With this, guys, we come to the end of the video series on Lesser Florican. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to Lassi, that is, like, share, subscribe and comment. And let me know what you feel about these videos in the comment section or in the mentorship group on Telegram. All the important links will be given in the description. Thank you. See you next time.